What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Functional Times. I'm recording this specifically for YouTube. We have this podcast up that's going out today, covering the Legends Masters Comp. Just want to give you a quick intro here for the YouTube. We have Bob and Joe from the Legends Masters Comp. Bob is a multiple-time Masters Games athlete. Joe is his business partner as well as his coach. So we're talking all about the spotlight on the Masters athletes. We know that this year CrossFit headquarters has ended the season for the age group online qualifiers. But these guys, the Legends Masters Comp, have sent out an invite to all qualifiers from the age group online qualifier. I invited them to the Legends Masters Comp, which is all about the Masters anyways. It is creating a games-like experience with the swag, with the hype of the games. It'll have a live feed, so there'll be video coverage. There'll be a little documentary, from what I understand, leading up to that. So really, it's all about catering to the Masters athletes, which is super cool. So we're going to jump right into Bob kind of explaining how this whole thing came about in the first place, as well as their loose affiliation with another group called the Masters Fitness Collective, which Bob can tell you all about. But here we go. We'll jump right in. Thanks for checking this out.
4 years ago-ish, Joe and I were in the gym one day, and we were talking about just the state of Masters competitions and how there wasn't really anything out there that really highlighted the Masters. At that point in time, I had done Wadapalooza a couple of times. I'd done Granite Games a couple of times. Joe is my coach. He wasn't a Masters yet, but he would come with me to all of those events and kind of experience it. And while those guys, they treated us well, the reality was Masters were just kind of a sideshow. They were never really, Masters were never really put center stage. They were never the primetime events. And I get it, right? I mean, they're businesses and they need to run and be profitable, and people aren't necessarily buying tickets to come watch me do a workout. They want to come watch, Tia or Matt or Vellner or whoever, right? So we just felt like there was kind of a big void there. And we had run, Joe had run a lot of local competitions out of our gym and had done it quite successfully. And so we figured, why not try and do one just for Masters? And so we kicked off the first one. We went from idea conception to actual event in like 60 days, Joe, or something. I mean, it was really quick.
Yeah, it was less than 2 months. It was fast. Luckily, we had the experience of hosting the other comps. So we were able to kind of put it together pretty quickly. And with that, since it was like a brand new competition type for us, athlete attendance was lower than our other comps, but that did allow us to kind of work out the kinks, take care of everyone that did attend very well, and provide a really cool experience for them. So it was a good start to start small. I mean, we had 36 athletes.
Yeah.
Right, Bob?
Yeah.
36 in the first year.
And this was what, 2016? Is that right?
This is probably, I think it's probably 2017, because this would be our fourth year.
17,
okay.
18, yeah, 17.
Okay.
Yeah, and so, I mean, out of the 36, we had like a couple of games athletes that were locals. Vic McQuaid, who's a friend of mine, did it. A couple of the local San Diego ladies Masters athletes did it as well. So it was a good start, first year, one-day event. But we always had a vision to kind of grow it. But we knew that we needed to start small, iron out some of the kinks, and then the plan was always by year 3, turn it into a multi-day event with an online qualifier, et cetera. So fast forward to year 3, which was just last year, and that was the first year that we started with our online qualifier. And we weren't really sure how successful it was going to be. It ended up being enormously successful. I think we had just under 380 people do the online qualifier across age groups that ranged from 35 to 60 plus. And then of those, we had various breakdowns by age group, but roughly 120 athletes ended up qualifying for the championship that we actually hosted out of our gym last September. So,
and of those, Bob, any idea how many of those are actually games athletes of those 120?
There was a bunch. So, most notably Val Oberl, right? She ended up winning the 40 to 44. Dusty Highland was a podium in the 40 to 44. Lon Allen, who actually just made the games this year, won the 50 to 54. Cindy Hinkle, who made the games for the first time this year, was in the 50 to 54 also. It was a real high level of talent. There was a high number of the podium athletes that also qualified for Wodapalooza. We actually ended up partnering with Wodapalooza because the competition was held on the same weekend as the final Wodapalooza qualifier workout. And so we actually hosted a Wodapalooza. That was one of the events. That was the first event that we did. It was the row thruster one into the 1 rep max clean or clean and jerk. So, great event, a lot of high level athletes. And as part of that, as part of the qualifier, we ended up becoming friends with the Masters Fitness Collective. So those guys happened to stumble across some of our social media, and we're like, wow, this is cool, right? Here's a competition for Masters only, right? This is what we've all been barking for. We want something that highlights the Masters athletes and really puts them up on a stage. We collectively, the Masters Fitness Collective, which is a loose group of like 10 guys or so, should, go do this. And it'll be a nice, vacation. We can all qualify, go out and have a good time. In addition to that, they reached out to Joe and I and said, hey, our mission around Masters Fitness is really to provide media and content. And we have some guys that we'd like to come out. We'd like to live stream it. We'd like to put together kind of a mini little documentary-ish around it, do kind of daily update type of media production that we could put out. And, we'd like to partner with you around that. And Joe and I were like, awesome, why not? That would be fantastic. And so that's really how our relationship with the Masters Fitness Collective kind of came into being. They came out and covered the first 3-day Legends Masters Championship. And since then, Joe and I are sort of loosely in that group now too. And I went down to South Fit and competed with them on a team down there in the Masters division down there. And, we're on ridiculously long text message chains where we sit around all day, basically.
Yeah, the best kind of text groups, huh?
What's that?
The best kind of the group messaging where it just, you check your phone and you got 60 unread messages. Yeah.
I'm surprised that neither one of our phones have lit up this morning yet, actually.
It's coming now.
Yeah.
Okay, so
that's kind of how Legends came together. That's how we joined forces with Masters Fitness Collective. And then the plan coming out of last year was so successful. I think we just lost Joe, but last year was so successful that we realized that we couldn't hold it in our gym anymore. We have a big gym for Southern California, but 120 athletes, 3-day competition. We were kind of bursting at the seams. And so the plan this year was to move it down to Del Mar, where they used to host the regionals for California, SoCal, and then California, and then West Regional. And so, we had that all lined up and ready to go, and COVID. So.
So as of right now, I know that your online qualifier got moved back to June 17th to July 17th, correct?
Yep.
And the last I checked, you guys don't have a definitive when and where the actual competition will occur. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So what we've decided is we just sent out an email to the folks on our subscriber list and gave everybody a little insight into how we're going to go ahead with things. So two things really happened in the last 2 weeks, right? So the games ended up canceling Masters. And as somebody who planned on attending and competing again this year, I was clearly disappointed in that. And I have a lot of friends that qualified as well, and they were clearly disappointed in that. And so we felt that the best way to kind of solve for that and still be able to crown the fittest masters in the world is simply just to invite the people that qualified out of the AGOQ, give them auto invites to the Legends Championship. With that, we're committed to still having a live event. We don't think that the world's fittest 45-year-old or the world's fittest 60-year-old should be crowned via an online competition. So we're in the process now of trying to lock down a new site. So we recognize that California just isn't going to be open on time. And even if it is, there's going to be just too many restrictions in California. And so we need to find a more, COVID friendly state and venue to hold the competition. So we're looking in Arizona, Texas, Florida, Georgia. We're going to keep it in the South. We want to keep it, we're going to do our best to keep it near a hub city. So a city where athletes can easily fly in and out of due to, like Houston, for example, is a hub for United. Phoenix is a hub for American Airlines and Southwest. And we felt that was important because athletes are going to be coming from not only all around the United States, but all around the world. We had athletes, last year we had a whole team of athletes come in from Argentina, for example. So we need to lock down a site first. And that will be once we find a site and we find a date, and we're kind of targeting anywhere from late October to very early December, then we're going to work backwards from there and then slot in the online qualifier. So we think we're going to move the online qualifier again out of June more than likely. And that's also to give people more time to get ready for the online qualifier. Again, just looking at California, most gyms won't be open by June, and asking people to do an online qualifier without having access to their gym just isn't very reasonable. So more than likely, we're looking at August for the online qualifier, and then again, late October to early December for the championship.
So how many spots you can have for each age group then?
Yeah. So in the 35 through the 45 divisions, we're going to have the 10 athletes from the games plus 25 qualifying spots from the online qualifier. So there'll be 35 men, 35 women in each one of those divisions. Okay. In the 50, we drop that down to 30. And then in the 55 and 60, that drops down to, I want to say 25 total. And then in the 65 plus, we added a 65 plus division this year. We're still only going to have 15 because there won't be any games qualifiers that come out of that.
So have you heard from any any of the top 10 age group qualifiers since the game is not happening that have said, hey, yeah, we're in, we're on board?
Yeah, so I'm friends with quite a bit of them, especially in my age group. I know Jeb Simmons very well. He and I do this thing called the Masters Chatter once a week. It's a Zoom call that I do with Justin LaSala, him, Clint Paddock, Mike Kern. Who am I missing? Jen Dieter. I'm missing somebody. I'm going to get a lot of shit because I can't remember who I skipped.
Swiss Stack.
Oh, Swiss Stack.
Steve.
Yeah. Sorry. All games athletes, most of us qualified for the games this year. They all want to do it, right? And they're all chomping at the bit. They feel the same way I do, which is, let's have a live competition, right? And the first great live competition that is out there, everybody wants to go do. So, and for us, it's not just any competition, right? It's the Masters only competition, right? The whole focus is just around Masters.
So logistically, obviously everything is fluid right now. We know that's why we're not setting dates and specific locations and things. But when you're talking about 35 per division, have you thought about how you're going to break that up? I mean, do you have it over more like a week span instead of a 2-day span? I mean, what kind of planning has gone into that?
Joe, you want to take this one?
Yeah. So in the past or last year we did a 3-day comp. All athletes competed every day. This year with one, moving location and having a little more budget wiggle room because we're kind of getting away from Del Mar, which is rather pricey to have a competition at. We can get we're looking at being able to acquire a bigger venue, which provides more space, but also adding potential 1 or 2 days. So a cool idea we had is if we did make it a 4-day competition, the athletes would only compete 3 of those days, which would give you a rest day in the middle of the comp, which would be nice. We can see kind of higher output, coming off a rest day after 2 days of competition, you can definitely push really hard in that final day. But also, that would spread out the athletes more just for safety and health. So we are playing with that idea. It all depends on hearing back from the venues that we are reaching out to and seeing what's available. But that's definitely an option that we're looking at as far as adding a day or 2 to the competition. And
do we see this being more, obviously when you're in a competition, you're not going to have athletes just stacked on top of one another. That's just not, especially not in an individual competition. But do we see things like only every other slot on the rig would be used type thing? You're spacing out the lanes a little bit more. Like, do you have to take into account all those things, or is the hope that by the time the competition is run, that we're past that a little bit?
Well, we're definitely going to plan for that. I feel like not having a plan to have the maximum amount of safety and health precautions would be stupid. We had the competition at our gym last year, just looking at it. And with the amount of space we have, we're gonna have a lot more space for this next year's competition. And just looking at the rig and looking at where we had athletes placed, we can easily give 8 to 10 feet minimum in between each athlete. That just takes strategic, staging of where their, lane is and where their equipment is placed within that lane. So yeah, we're definitely going to make sure that we create the safest and cleanest competition possible. And depending on the regulations or standard operating procedures that are required for that state or where we're at, we're going to make sure we meet that.
All right. So what about spectators, family, friends? Any thoughts around that so far?
We definitely would like that to happen. That is going to have to be basically regulated by whatever area we're in. We'll have to work off whatever information or procedures they have set in place or requirements. We'll have to wait and see basically until we find a location. Cool. What do they require? What are they limiting? And we have to work with that.
So what about the live streaming? You know, we talked about in the past, Masters Fitness Collective, being able to live stream it and stuff. Is that still on the agenda for this year?
Yeah, absolutely. Not only are they going to do a live stream, but the plan is to do like a Road to the Legends Championship documentary. So
sweet. So more information on that you can find at the Masters Fitness Collective Instagram page.
Yeah. They haven't published anything on that, but you can see the work that they did last year on their YouTube page.
Okay. Awesome. All right. So to kind of sum everything up of what we've got, this will be the 4th annual. You guys are, for lack of a better word, determined to have an in-person competition, assuming that's possible. You're going to search out states, basically, limiting it to the South for the most part, but search out states that will be friendly enough for you to hold a competition of this size. You've extended invites to all the top 10 age group qualifiers, 35 to 60. And then we talked about how many in each division. Of course, social distancing, all those things, you know, as safe as possible will take place. And it will be live streamed as well as documentary kind of leading up to that. That online qualifier is set June to July right now, but realistically August is more likely.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else as far as the competition goes for this year that you guys want to make sure that we get out there?
No, I mean, I think the one thing that I like to get out relative to our message and what separates us from the other competitions, right? I mean, you know, when you think about why would a Masters athlete want to come to Legends Championship versus Granite Games, Wadapalooza, right? You know, really what it comes down to is you know, those guys are a business and they need to make money. And so they're going to run their competition in a way that best makes money for them. And I don't blame them for doing that. You know, that's how their livelihood is built off of it. Joe and I built this as a passion project. We don't give a crap if we ever make a penny on this. And in fact, we're pretty deep in the hole over the last 3 years. To us, it's really more about building the best experience for the Masters athletes. I want to replicate that games athlete experience for everybody. And you just don't get that as a Masters athlete in one of the sanctional events. You know, again, because you're kind of the sideshow as opposed to the main attraction. So,
okay, so that's a perfect transition. And if you guys don't want to tackle the subject, by all means, we don't have to. But I know that in speaking to a lot of Masters athletes, even the last 2 years has been a little bit disappointing or frustrating from a standpoint of the lack of media coverage, kind of lack of attention in general. I fall in that category. However, I'm not a games athlete, so I don't have that same, slighted feeling as one of those athletes, but I get it. I understand that standpoint. So when CrossFit came out and said age group is not going to happen this year, I mean, how does that hit home? I mean, was it like, okay, we get it, we understand because it is a business, or?
No. So I'll take you through kind of everything that happened, right? So, went through the age group qualifier. I think they did a great job on programming this year. Gave us 6 events, which was awesome. And I thought the events were good tests too. They included heavy barbell for the first time in a couple of years, which was nice. And started the programming treated Masters athletes like athletes, not like people that are getting ready to, step into a retirement home. So they did a great job on the program. So, do all the events. They wrapped up like literally a week before, COVID really hit hard and the states started shutting down. Submitted my videos. They asked for 2 videos, workout 1, which was the thruster and double under workout, and then workout 6, which was a deficit handstand push-up, deadlift, and front squat workout. It was a repeat from 2017. Submitted the 2 videos and, got an email back from them within like 48 hours that my workout 6 was good. Fast forward a couple of weeks, we're getting close to the day when they were supposed to finalize the leaderboard, and they sent out a message via social media saying, hey guys, sorry, due to everything that's going on, we're a little bit behind. Here are the new dates, right? And so they gave themselves basically another 2 weeks to review the videos. Fast forward to those 2 weeks. It was supposed to come out like Wednesday at 5 o'clock. Happened to be working out at that time. My phone started lighting up. CrossFit had produced a list of shame, right? So everybody who got penalized on the 2 workouts, which I actually think is a good thing. One of our big complaints as masters athletes in the past has been they haven't been strict enough with the video review, and there wasn't any transparency around what people got penalties for. So they were very strict and very transparent this year. They send out the list of shame. I ended up on it. I got a minor penalty for my thrusters, but still ended up qualifying. Didn't really affect my score all that much. Go to bed, wake up the next morning, and I have 102 text messages. So sometime in between that list of shame and when I woke up the next morning was when CrossFit then announced, hey, we completed everything. We did all the video review, but you guys aren't going to the games. Initial reaction was, severe disappointment. And I was a little pissed, right? I mean, this is a year's worth of work. It gets harder every year to make it, especially now that they've cut it down to 10 athletes from 20. And the way the message was delivered felt a little disrespectful. They did it via social media instead of via email. Ended up having Dave Castro on the Masters Chatter on Sunday night, and he kind of took us through some of the behind the scenes relative to that. There wasn't any disrespect intended. They never really did have any intention once COVID hit of having the Masters or the teens compete. Once they decided to move it to Aromas, they were really only thinking at that point, what can we do to salvage anything this year? The Olympics have been canceled. All the other major sports are either suspended or canceled. What can we do to crown the fittest male and female in the world? So that kind of tells you where they're going with this too. Like, I don't think they're going to have teams. I think what they end up having at the ranch is a really, really small, like 20 athletes total, right? When you hear that perspective and understand that they're a business, you can't really be pissed anymore, right? You just have to recognize that CrossFit was dealt a shitty hand, just like everybody else was with COVID, and they're just doing their best to kind of get by, and that's fine, But again, they're a business; they need to make money. We love the sport, and we're doing this for the love of the sport and to celebrate Masters athletes. And we don't give a crap if we make money. So we're going to, ride forward and deliver a live championship for the best Masters athletes in the world.
All right. So if you don't mind, because I did watch part of that, I didn't catch all of it, but part of the interview or the Zoom call or whatever that Dave was on Sunday night, For people that didn't watch that or haven't heard that, what were some of the main points that he made that made you feel a little bit better about it? Because even still, there's still a whole lot of athletes out there that are certainly not okay with everything. And I get that. Then the flip side is you get from a business perspective or even a logistics standpoint that this is out of their control. And, you know, like you said, there's only so much they can do. But at the same time, it's hard to say that and then turn around and have any competition. So from an outsider looking in, if you're saying, well, look, you know, there's only so much we can do, we're trying to salvage anything.
Yeah.
Then why salvage it for some and not the rest? You know, unless it's just purely financial.
It's a business, right? I mean, not having, not crowning the fittest man in the world, fittest man and woman in the world this year for CrossFit is damaging to their marketing, right? If they have to wait an entire year to do that again, I think that's a problem. You know, what's interesting, the very next night we had the Talking Elite Fitness guys on. I don't know if you had a chance to look at that one.
I saw it. I have not had a chance to watch that one yet.
That one's really, really interesting. So Sean Woodland and Tommy Marquez have a lot of great insight into kind of the inner workings of CrossFit. And, you know, clearly they have a bias coming into it because they came from the media group there. But once CrossFit got rid of the entire media team, they've lost all marketing, right? So, you know, not having a venue for them to keep their name out in the public eye in a positive way. And that's what would happen if they got rid of the games altogether, could be, you know, very damaging long-term to a business that's already potentially in decline, right? I mean, you look at the fact that, you know, for the first time ever, affiliates are worldwide have dropped year over year, right? And that's really their main source of income, right, is through the affiliate fees. So again, just from a business perspective, I get it. You know, it makes sense that they kind of need to go forward with putting a crown on, you know, Matt and Tia's heads again.
I like how you just go ahead and crown them while we're at it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, look, whoever it ends up being, it's probably always going to have an asterisk next to it. Yeah. But as somebody who runs a business, I don't fault them for doing whatever they can to kind of keep things going. It sucks that you know, masters are the byproduct of that, right? You know, we're the waste product that they just kind of dispose of. But, you know, I get it. It's fine. Life will go on for us, you know?
Yeah. Well, and that's why it's so important that you guys are doing what you're doing to highlight those masters athletes that have put in the work, you know, because you mentioned earlier, you know, you've got a year's worth of work to get to this point and there's only 10 that make it. But for some, I would imagine this may be a once in a lifetime deal, right? I mean, who knows? An injury could take them out next year. I know we had an athlete that qualified for the online qualifier, but in one of the final workouts, she tore her ACL. So she wasn't able to compete and do the online qualifier. So for her, you know, she's got to rebuild for at least a year, maybe two. And then, you know, who knows what life throws at you after that point. So it is a really big deal for these athletes that have put in that hard work and time, and not just the masters, but also the teens, who hopefully will have a lot of opportunities to come in the years ahead.
Yeah, well, I'd even throw into that, you know, the coaches and training partners, right? I mean, you don't make it to the games on your own. It's just not possible. You know, if you don't have a good coach, if you don't have, you know, good training partners to kind of keep you going day in, day out, then like, I don't care what kind of athlete you are. It's just too hard to get there with only 10 athletes now. So, you know, I feel more bad for Joe and my training partners than I do for myself, right? He's put in just as much effort to get me where I am over the last 7 years as I have, right? So, and I'm sure I'm not unique in that regard either. Not to diminish your efforts there, Joe, but there are a lot of
Not at all.
There are a lot of people that have sacrificed a lot of time with their families, right, to help get their athletes to this stage, and they never get to see the limelight, right? They don't get a step on the floor, and just being able to go to Madison, have that backstage access. I'm sure that was a cool experience, Joe, right? I mean,
yeah, it was super cool. Like, in getting in, the trip was coming up, and like I knew I was going to be able to go into the backstage warm-up area and help Bob warm up, and I knew the other athletes were going to be there. But like once he stepped in there, it was super cool. It was a very awesome experience, and it like immediately made me think about like why we do this for the Masters. It's not just for the athlete; it's for like the nephew at our last Legends competition. The nephew was the coach for his grandma, or for his that'd be his. The grandson was coach for his grandma, and that's amazing. Like that's super cool. And she's been CrossFitting for 5 years, and she's in the 60 plus doing chest to bar pull-ups and moving weight really well. And so, just being able to give them the spotlight and give the coaches that feel of like they're helping their athlete become as good as possible to compete against other athletes that are working their butt off just as hard. And it just comes to full circle, providing that full experience for not just the athletes, for the coaches, for the families, the spectators, making sure that, they can see their dad, mom, grandma, grandpa, whoever out there competing and still kicking butt at whatever age they are, not dead yet. So it's pretty cool. Going to the games was really motivating for me to help basically Bob and I create that experience for other people, but specifically for Masters athletes and their families.
So how do you guys do that? We're talking about the competition that highlights Masters. So Bob, you've been to the games several times. So how do you replicate that feeling in your competition?
Yeah, this is going to sound kind of silly, man, but like one of the best parts about the game is the swag, right?
Yeah.
Joe will tell you, like, there isn't a day that goes by that I'm not wearing something with my number on it, right? Like, it's just cool. As a Masters athlete, like, you're never gonna earn a living being a Masters CrossFit athlete, right? Like, the prize money just isn't big enough. We try to offer as much prize money as we can in Legends because that's important as well. But only the podium ends up getting prize money. You have literally dozens of other athletes that are there for the experience as well. And a lot of that comes down to the swag, right? And so last year we made sure that we went all out. We partnered with Born Primitive to create the athletes' uniforms, right? And so all the athletes, they had their shorts with their number on it and the logo. And they had like 3 different shirts with their name and their gym and their number on it, right? Like giving them that experience as opposed to, showing up at, and I don't mean to disparage these guys because they've been really good to me over the years, but, showing up at Wadapalooza and getting an $8 tank top and being told to, go around to all the vendor booths to collect my swag. Like, that's just not, right? Like,
Didn't have the same feeling.
it's lame, man. It's really lame. I really like that $8 tank top. It's cool. I wear it all the time, but it's just not the same. And I don't know, Joe probably feels the same. I love going through our Instagram on a daily basis and seeing all the people that tag us, and they're working out in their Legends short, or they're working out in their Legends jerseys and stuff. or they're in their garage gym and they have their name placard up behind the wall. Like those are all the things that really make the experience worthwhile to the athletes. It's that, then it's also the programming, right? Not to, so there's the upfront part of, making sure that the athletes feel like they're being treated like the pros, but then there's the programming comes into play as well, where, I've done a lot of even kind of local-ish masters competitions, and even, some of the bigger ones too, where they kind of overscale the events, right? And they take away, they drop the weight too much, or they don't think that we can do, handstand walks or legless rope climbs, or, high volume ring muscle ups, or whatever it is. They have programmed these events for the lowest common denominator instead of to show off, masters athletes, elite masters athletes, and their amazing fitness. So we're very cognizant. Joe actually had a conversation with some people yesterday about this. We're very cognizant when we build the program over 3 days that we're not looking to beat people into the ground, but we want to challenge them and we want to highlight their athletic ability. That combined with the swag, I think, is really how you create the experience.
Yeah. So the swag thing, I think a big part of that, it creates a sense of pride, right? I mean, hey, I wear this to work out in, and I'm going to, make sure I have this on for my Instagram video, because I want to show that I achieved this level, that I made it to the Legends Masters Cup, that I made it to the CrossFit Games. And so that's cool. Not everybody can do that. So that's one thing, as a fan, myself as a fan, when you're looking at these athletes, right offhand, a lot of times that they're a games athlete because of their swag, right? I mean, because of the shorts, because of the shirt.
Well, there's two ways that you'll know, either from what they're wearing, or if you let them open up their mouth, they'll tell you.
That's for sure. That's for sure. But the programming, that's interesting as well. And do you think that at these local competitions or at some of the others that you've been to, it's because they're not either masters athletes themselves and they don't know the capability, or because they're not coaching and programming specifically for masters athletes?
Yeah, I think that definitely comes down to it. I'll give you a little insight into kind of how we program. So the way it usually goes down is I come into Joe's office and I start scribbling on the whiteboard a bunch of like cockamamie shit, right? Like we're gonna do 50 rounds of King Kong. Let's do that. That's awesome, And then Joe will be like, "Yeah, Bob, that's great, but how about we do these other things instead? Because that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard." Right? Usually the kind of way it goes down is like I'll over program it, because like I'm thinking more about like this one event would be so awesome, and I know that like I love lifting ridiculously heavy barbell, but you can't do that in every event over 3 days, because otherwise, you end up killing people. So I'll come in with like a basic idea that Joe then heavily refines and turns into more art as opposed to graffiti, right?
Brute force.
Yeah. It's the programming is really fun. Like it's so exciting for us, just because like we're like, damn, like I really want to participate in this competition. It'd be like, not just do the workouts, because we end up doing the workouts in some manner, maybe not the whole workout, but like a part of it to get the feel and timing down. But it's like, man, like if I was doing this competition, to be out on the floor and the way we set up the workout for like an exciting finish, I'm like, man, it would be super fun, or it's going to be really fun to watch. And so, yeah, Bob brings in basically, he's not giving himself enough credit. He brings in most of the programming and it's pretty much done, but it's okay, cool. How do we, make it fit so that we can encompass more athletes that are not as strong? So how do we build them up to that weight in the barbell. So, okay, we'll have multiple barbells and it'll ascend. Or how do we get people doing to a point where we can showcase a good amount of ring muscle ups? You know, we'll have them progress through the gymnastics kind of sequence of pull up, chest to bar, and then muscle ups in a workout, which multiple other competitions have done. But like just the back and forth we do, like he'll write it, we'll switch it up again. We'll actually at that point bring in one of our head coaches here at Offshore Athletic. It turns out to be a really fun workout. Yeah. And it's fun. It's really fun programming for all these competitions.
And when do y'all start? How far out do you guys start planning for this competition?
We pretty much programming.
Just in general.
Oh, months. Yeah.
Months at a time.
I mean, we have the
workouts.
It's already programmed. Yeah.
Nice.
So
nice.
I mean, we'll make adjustments based off of obviously venue or those things, but the stimulus, the movements, the equipment that we will need has already been set for both the qualifier and the championship.
Okay, so for people, I'm sorry, Bob, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, I think we started programming for this year the day after Legends Championship last year, right? Like that's the thing that we get most excited about.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things to where as you're competing or as you watch it or right when you finish, you're like, man, I had this idea and that idea and this idea that would be really cool for next year.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I could see that.
For sure.
All right. So for people that want to know more, for maybe people that haven't signed up, it's not too late. Is that correct?
Oh, no, yeah.
No, it's not too late.
Okay.
Yeah,
So where do people go to find out more information, to sign up, to keep updated?
So legendscomp.com will give all the information that we basically just reviewed as far as, the dates are to be determined, but this is our date range. Our Instagram, we just put up a link tree to the legendscomp.com, the competition corner, which competition corner right now has a date of June, I believe. And that will be adjusted once we solidify that date. Within that link tree via our Instagram account, Legends Masters Comp, you can find the latest update that we just sent out, the email. So for those who haven't subscribed to legendscomp.com to receive the emails, you can go on there and read that email currently, and it has basically broken down everything was covered as far as, we need to find the venue. This is our date range. We're going to work backwards. That's going to then set the date range for the qualifier, and so on. We're also asking for feedback. We're also asking for, hey, if you know of a cool location, because the Legends community is widespread across the U.S., there could be a really cool spot that we're just not aware of. Send us that info. We're going to look into it. We're going to see if we can make it work. And so the website or our Instagram is going to be the best locations for information.
Awesome. Bob, anything else to add?
No, man, that's it. Thanks for having us on. Definitely really appreciate it.
Yeah, hey, thanks for coming on, and y'all keep us updated. We'll make sure that we keep putting out the information as we can now.